Hello guys, and welcome back to Sinister Stories. Today, we're going to take another dive into my personal paranormal experiences. Now you might notice that all of these stories have something to do with a shadowy figure. Now this figure has been around my house ever since we moved in. We've seen it in a lot of places, so we have a lot of stories and encounters with it. So join me until we dive into darkness and scary stories that I've personally encountered. Sit back, grab a drink, put your feet up, and enjoy the video. Story number 1. Now, like I mentioned before, this shadowy figure has been here ever since we can remember. And even though we've seen it in a lot of places, it's usually out of the corner of our eye and never too direct. We might see it scurrying around in darkness, but we never encounter it, or we never meet up with it or interact with it in any way. It's always just kind of a visual effect. Now this might seem like a good thing, but the problem with this is that we never knew if it was just us or if there was actually something lurking around the house. Well, our fears came to be known as fact, as my brother had an encounter with this shadowy figure for the first time just a few months ago. Now my brother had just gotten home. It was around 2 a.m. and he got home, got showered, and got ready to go to bed since he worked the next morning. Now just some info for later, my brother's bed is in the very back of his room, which means it's as far as possible from the doorway. Just keep that in mind. Now my brother is laying there in the darkness of his room. The only light coming into the room comes from a night light just outside in the hallway. Also, he doesn't have a door. Instead of a door, he just has a curtain. He said he was just laying there when he noticed that the light was blocked by a certain figure. That figure was peeking into his room, and the only thing he could see was the top of his head. After peeking in for a few seconds, he said the shadowy figure moved in. Now with the light coming from the nightlight behind him, he couldn't see exactly who it was, but he did see the outline of somebody entering. The thing about my brother's room is that the rest of it is completely dark except for the small amount of light at the doorway. So if somebody enters at night, you can't really see them once they get past a certain point. Now to be honest, I always enter my brother's room at night and ask for things, so he obviously thought it was me. And he said, "What's up, dude?" thinking that I was going to take something or borrow something. When the figure didn't answer, he asked again, "Yo, what do you want?" Being the second time without an answer, my brother got annoyed and got up to turn on the lights. He turned on the lights and there was nobody in the room with him. Now since me and him were the only people in the house, he walked over to my room and he found me on my PC. At this time, I'm usually editing a video or playing games, so he knew it wasn't me since I was really invested in the game I was playing. Now he looked really worried because he always knew that there was a shadow that lurked around the house since I've seen it on multiple occasions, but it never seemed to interact with us like it did with him. After a few minutes though, I managed to calm him down and he just blew it off. That is, until it happened again, but even worse. Story number 2. A few months later, after this shadow incident, my brother was again getting home late. He showered, he lay down in bed, and he got ready to go to sleep. Now my brother was staring at the doorway, thinking of some events that happened that day as he tried to fall asleep, when all of a sudden, he saw the shadow peek in again. Now just like the last time, all he could see was the top of its head peeking in. Now he hoped it was me, but he said in the back of his mind, he kind of knew it was the shadowy figure. He asked again, "Yo bro, what do you want?" He thought it was me, but he didn't get an answer. Now the shadowy figure didn't enter like the time before, but instead he just watched him for a good minute. My brother then got a little annoyed and sat up in his bed, and that's when the figure shined a bright light in his face. Now my brother said the light looked like it came from a phone, but except it was brighter and more direct. The space around him didn't fill up with light, but it was just right on his face. He got super mad and he got up because he really thought it was me at this point, and he thought it was me with my phone trying to pull a prank on him. He got up and started walking towards the doorway. He was about halfway through his room when the shadowy figure disappeared from sight and ran away. Now he heard it scurrying. He heard heavy footsteps run down the hallway, and my dog started barking. My brother entered my room first just to make sure it wasn't me, and he saw me with my headset on playing the game. I was already aware of the situation, however, since my dog barking alerted me. He noticed that it wasn't me, and without saying a word, he walked back to the kitchen to make sure that all the doors were locked and that the windows were closed. And they were. If this was a real person, there would be no way that they would escape without making any noise. Now I sat down with my brother and talked to him until I calmed him down, but this time it didn't really work. He was visibly shaken by this event, and still to this day, he doesn't like to talk about it. Story number 3. Now we always see this shadow at our house, but there was one event where I saw it somewhere else. It was at the end of the school day, and me and my friend were walking towards the bus stop to head home. Now I was in high school at the time and we were walking down the longest hallway in the school which led all the way to the gym. Me and my friend were pretty tired, so we weren't really talking, we were just walking and just kind of thinking about our day. Now at that moment, I look down the hallway all the way at the end and I see a shadow on the ceiling crawling. Now the shadow is moving extremely fast and I see it crawl around the corner at the end of the hall. Now to be honest, at this point, since I always see the shadow at my house, I thought that this was just my brain playing tricks on me. And I honestly didn't think much of it. And I wasn't gonna think much of it until my friend looked at me and said, "Yo dude, did you see that?" As he said that, I got chills because I knew that whatever was crawling on that ceiling was completely real. This wasn't just a figment of my imagination, and that terrified me. Now I don't know if that shadow was a part of that school or if that's the same one at my house that just followed me, but it was there and we both saw it, and I'm not sure what it is, but it was very, very real. Anyways guys, those were 3 of my paranormal stories and I hope you all enjoyed them. I'm sorry if I sounded a bit weird during these stories, but they are kind of frightening when I think about them, because even though I love this topic, you don't actually know how scary these events can be until you go through it. So I hope none of you have to go through anything like this and you just continue to read and hear about them. Anyways guys, be sure to sub so you won't miss any of my future videos. And also don't forget to hit that like button and comment down below if you have any topics you want me to cover or any experiences you want me to talk about. Other than that, I hope you'll have a great evening and stay safe out there.